stuff, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Worship Nugs podcast. We are on our continual quest to find the next great leadership thought, nugget, words of wisdom, fresh revelation from the Lord, all the good things, maybe a dad joke or two along the way. We keep it sweet and spicy around here. As always, today's guest is an incredible friend. We've known each other for a long time, just in passing, and I've watched what the Lord's done in his life over the last 15, 20 years. And so we're going to dive right in today. But before we do, make sure you're liking, you're sharing, subscribing, all the things that people do, right? We've been at this social media thing since MySpace, and we're just learning as we go. But if you'll help us by just sharing with your friends, letting them know that we're over here having some pretty cool conversations with some pretty cool people, that would really help as we kind of grow this thing. I shared last week that last month we had 3.5 million views on our reels and our posts, which is crazy to think that it's getting that kind of reach. But God's using it. And what we love about this platform is that scripture that simply says that we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. And if we were to say that in 2025, I think what that's really telling us is that stories matter. Our story matters and the story of Jesus matters. And so that's what we get to do. We get to share stories in hopes that in our story, maybe you find a little bit of your story, and then we can all be in this thing together, sharing our stories and growing together in Jesus. So without further ado, we're going to bring in our guest today. If you're on your couch, if you're pouring a cup of coffee, give us a little round of applause as we bring in my friend Justin Rizzo. What's up, man?
What's up, dude?
Man, just over here living the dream. I'm on my fourth Diet Coke for the day, so if that tells you
Very
anything
nice.
about
I was
it's
hoping for another chicken squawk when you introduced me there,
yeah.
but maybe add it in post. Maybe we'll see.
No, yeah, well, yeah, maybe we can. So it's so funny when we initially had the idea for this podcast. I've been sitting on it for a little while, and you have a great podcast. The work that goes into putting a podcast, it's not easy.
Yeah.
And so I've sat on it for a long time and had some friends encourage me to do it. And as the Lord was kind of growing our social media platform, I thought, okay, well, let's do it. But the initial concept for the show was every time we had a guest, we were going to get a 5-piece nugget and we're going to go down the line, like give me one nugget. But can you think if I'd have done that? There's some days where I record multiple episodes in a day. I'm looking at like 15, 20 nuggets in a
Can't
day.
do
If
that.
I were to, you can't do that, not at
Yeah.
my age. You'll hurt yourself. But yeah, but yeah, man, we love it. I'm so glad you're here. We're going to talk all things worship, leadership today. And I know we chatted really briefly just about our connection, 15, 20 years ago and what God's done since then. And,
Yeah.
I kind of, I shared with you, we were on the road, touring a lot, traveling a lot, and we were kind of on that evangelistic side of what it means to lead worship. You kind of go into a city, you do your best set list, you give your best all the things, right? You're playing all the hits, so to speak, right? And then you kind of, you spark a flame, and then you leave. That's it. But when you're in the local church and you're a worship leader or worship pastor, and you have the opportunity to develop culture, it's a little different. You can't do that same set list all the time. I tried, and people, they're like, "Hey, does this guy know anything other than Glorious Day?" I'm like, "Yeah, let's give it a go." As we dive in today, here in a minute, I want to get into all those things, but before we get too far, can you just kind of share with our listeners and our viewers who you are, what you're doing, what God's doing right now, all the things?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to say that I am not in my home right now. I'm on the road, and my brother and sister-in-law have a podcast. I'm not sure if you can see it, but it says "Our One Blessed Mess" over here. So
I
shout
love
out
it.
to their podcast. Go check them out on YouTube. They're really funny. They're awesome people, entrepreneurs. They love Jesus, and it's good stuff. So that is why I'm here. This is not my brand, but yeah. So life is good, man. So super grateful to the Lord for just how he's led us. I know even when we connected, 10, 15 years ago, just so much has happened since then, in the body of Christ globally, but also just, in our lives personally. And so really grateful that, my wife and so I'm married, I have 2 young daughters, and, we really live full time in, giving ourselves to worship and discipleship in the realm of the creative arts and kind of Hollywood and all that kind of stuff. And so no regrets, man. Just really, really grateful to the Lord for how he's led.
I love that, man. I love that. Yeah. I love what you guys are doing and kind of leading the way with worship leading and and I think we're coming to we're stepping into a season where and we get to work with a lot with our student ministry here and I joke about it, but I really do love it. I think it keeps me connected. I remember 15-year-old me that was changed by the power of God at 15. Like my journey with Jesus started. So I have such a love for it, a value for it. But what I think we've seen in this kind of era is a lot of talent, a lot of really great worship singers,
Mm,
worship vocalists, but it's that leading piece, that how do we, and there's that old spiritual saying, if you're real spiritual, real churchy, that some things are caught and some things are taught. And it sounds really good. And honestly, I really do kind of think some of it's true. We have a mutual friend in Eddie. And I remember back to some of those seasons when I was traveling with Eddie. I can remember just watching how he would lead a room, and he didn't have to give me a handbook. I just kind of watched it,
mm.
but not everybody has access to that kind of proximity, right? So how do we take that piece of it, and how do we pour into this next generation, because not everybody can go on the road with you and get that advantage. Like I was lucky enough, privileged enough, I watched how Eddie would just change your room, walk in there, it could be as dead as a doornail, and he just knew how to what needed to happen, how to move the room. He knew how to set the temperature, not check the temperature, all those things. And again, I had that proximity, but now it's like we have worship leaders coming up all over the place, and they don't have the quite the same proximity or access. So can we just start off? I know we have a bunch of questions, but as you're kind of seeing that, like what are some ways that you're helping? I know you're leading the charge in that, making sure we don't lose the art of leading, not just songs, but leading the room.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, gosh, there's lots I could say there. Definitely something that my heart really is passionate about, is helping not just worship leaders, but singers, musicians, I mean, creatives of all types, honestly, to number one, actually pursue their gift and steward it well, because there's so much that fights and strives against them actually pursuing and stewarding their gift. Fear, lack of money, lack of resources, lack of community, the list goes on. And
Mm,
having coached, hundreds of worship leaders, and hundreds of creatives in that space, I think probably the biggest thing is, the desire to give up. But then the second thing as well, I think that really, a lot of worship leaders and creatives need is to really like kind of connect with their why. I know it sounds so like almost trite in a way. It's like, oh, of course, like, but for me, everything that I've done as a creative, as a filmmaker, as a songwriter, a worship leader, whatever I'm doing, and I tell my clients this all the time, like everything that I'm doing is because of two simple reasons. I love God, and I want to steward what He's given me. Like that's
mm,
it. And I talk with creatives all the time. They might be 16 or 66 and be like, oh, when I was young, I had this prophetic word, or this guy came in town and called me out of the congregation and said, hey, you, like, your song's gonna go forth to the nations, or whatever it is. And then I'm like, so how have you done at songwriting? And they're like, well, life happened. I got married, had a kid, I gotta have a real job, whatever. And I understand all those things. I'm not saying we should live foolishly. Um, but I think, being a part of a different kingdom, a heavenly one, what the Lord says in Corinthians, the so-called wisdom of this world, their thoughts, their opinions, is many times foolishness to God.
mm,
And many times the so-called foolishness of a Christian life, God calls incredibly wise. The book of Matthew, he says, hey, Johnny, Justin, if you want to save your life, lose it, give it up.
mm,
If you try and like save your life and grit, and whatever, like you're gonna lose it. So if you want to like actually gain a life, lose it and give it all away. Now, what does that look like in each person's case and scenario? I can't speak into that. We can't speak into that. But I think that the stewardship of one's calling is probably the biggest thing I would say that I have a heart to see happen. But then secondly, I really do feel for the worship movement specifically, my humble opinion, and I've heard Matt Redman talk about this a lot as well, is seeking to get me, we, I, and us, out of the picture just a little bit more. I don't think that we're called to solely get us out of the picture, because let's be clear, Revelation, we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. So it's like, and Jesus says, in the Psalms, like, from one generation to the next generation. So it's like we're supposed to be telling stories. We're supposed to be singing of how God has helped us. But I have a heart to see, just like, let's like swing that pendulum a little bit. If it's like me-centric worship over here, fully Jesus over here, can we just like end up like somewhere in the middle, and not all me-centric stuff is another thing that I think that would do the worship movement a lot of good, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think it really is kind of simple, really, when we peel back the layers. It starts with a first love for Jesus, and I think I try to tell people all the time, like, I quote the cha cha slide. How low can you go? And that really is the posture. I think how do we make our favorite place the feet of Jesus first, and then from there figure out how to do everything else. There's a quote from Jeremy Riddle's book, The Reset, that I love. That he says that the heart of a worship leader can be felt in the room.
Mm.
Like, you may think you're pulling it off by like running on E or whatever. And I get there's busy seasons. Some seasons our devotion is different than others, right? And there's grace for sure. But if your heart isn't first a love for Jesus and that wine, like you're talking about, the room can feel it. You know what I mean? Like, and that's why you see those people. I think the difference between being able to lead a song and lead the room is
Yeah.
that love for Jesus. And I sit with our set list as often as I can, through at least once, if not more than once. I'll sit with the set list throughout the week, and I'll go through it, and I'll kind of feel the moments first, because I don't want to lead people somewhere I've not yet been. I remember we went on a cruise to the Bahamas one year, and they're always trying to like get you to take their tour, and we ended up on some boat or something, and this tour guy, I thought he was official. He wasn't official. He was just some guy working for tips. I didn't know that then, but and we get on this boat, and he's giving this guide this tour, and he's pointing out all the things. He's like, if you look over there, you'll see this. If you look at that building, it's been there since 19 whatever. He knew everything. He was well seasoned on this path. And I think as worship leaders, we kind of have to be that has to be our approach, that once now that you're on the boat with me, it's not my first time. I've kind of taken this path before, and I know what to point out along the way. I know
Mm.
where we can be. But yeah, and I agree too with the the me's and the we's. I think, I mean, I won't say there's a place there. I believe in declaring. That's a good thing, right? I think
Yep.
you look at Jesus and Peter, and when Jesus says, "Who do you say that I am?" and Peter declared who he was. Like, there's something there about declaring. But I think as vertical as we can go, I mean, and we see it all the time. And I have to sometimes we try to plan ahead here. Like, we'll have like both those songs on the planning center just to have them there, and then as we get closer, we'll kind of massage them. But I'm especially in this season with what God's doing, is we're so intentional that song right before the message has to be vertical. Like,
Mm.
we've got to point the room completely up. And we know when we don't. We know when we've missed it, or when we've maybe not thought all the way through, and now here we are, song 3, still singing about me. You know what I mean? And there's great, like, I trust in God is a great declaration. Like, sometimes we need to remind ourselves, right? But before we get to what really I think moves the heart, is like what you're saying, is getting to that place where it's completely straight up, vertical, straight to the Lord, the songs that are at his feet. Again, being Kansas City, like, I think one of the things I took away from that was that hosting of the presence of God. That's so, you don't even hear that language a lot anymore. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's like, I could say that to our 20-year-old worship leaders, and they think I made it up. Like, I that was an original thing. Like, no,
Mm.
like, this is like a whole, like, we don't,
Yeah.
that language is kind of forgotten. But I love that, man. Well, I want to chat through a few things, with from your perspective, where you're sitting right now. I want to talk about what's winning in worship right now. What are we doing really well, in the worship movement, in the worship space? And then, because we do this with our team, we'll look at the wins, and then we don't call them losses, we call them opportunities. So
Yeah.
I'd love just from your perspective, where are we winning, and where are some opportunities that we still have?
Um, yeah, I think two things that I'm really loving that I've seen in the worship movement right now is the authenticity and then the community that is being forged. Matt Redman said the statement several years ago that there's not one song on the last 5 albums he's done, not one song was written alone. They've all been co-writes, and that just speaks a lot to me, to the community, to the drive for humility to bring other people involved, get other people involved. So I think that, and also the authenticity that so many worship leaders are carrying, again, from that you hear on the radio, but also people that I coach in 100 member, 250 member churches, here in the States and even abroad. There's just such an authenticity to the harkening back to say, you know what, life before socials, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube are where I want to live in my brain space. Not that those things are bad, that not that we could not use those things, but so harkening back to, you know what, I'm not going to try and do, the latest and the greatest light show and smoke show. Nothing wrong with those things. I love those things. Like, I'm a producer, filmmaker guy. Like, I get it, but there's this authentic. You know what? Like, we're going to pursue Jesus' presence on Sunday morning, on Wednesday night, at a prayer meeting. Wherever it is. And so I love the community I'm seeing, and I love the
No,
authenticity that a
yeah,
lot of
no,
people
I
are
would
carrying
agree.
right
I
now.
think everything kind of goes around. It comes back in cycles, right? And I think we had an era there where we learned how to use a light board, and we learned how to use a hazer, and we just went nuts with it. Um, and it's like, how cool can we make it? But now we're kind of circling back, and we're like, hey, okay, these things are cool, but the we don't have to have those things. And I think to this generation that we're seeing come up now, they just want that authentic thing. I think that I know we see it a lot of times with our student ministry. We have about 100 kids that'll come on Wednesday night, and like they love the fun, fast stuff. But man, when we really just strip it back and go to worship, dude, it's like something just comes alive. Like they've been waiting for somebody to just be honest with them,
Mhm.
and they've been waiting for a space to be honest with
Yeah.
themselves and honest with God. And I think too, what one of the narratives we're rewriting is, that we have to have it all together, to come to come into his presence. I think, I love that brokenness is what he comes near to. It's when we're prideful and we think we got it all together. He's like, I don't think I can't touch that. But you're broken, you're messed up. I got you. I can work with that. And it's so
Yep.
beautiful, that we're seeing. And I love that collaboration thing too. I know one of the things I'd love to talk through this too. Just the difference between evangelistic worship leading and then like building a team like locally. But one of the things that we've done here, we've been at our church for 3.5 years, and I lead one. I'm the worship pastor, but I lead one song a Sunday. That's it. I pass it off, like, because like, it's
Mm.
not it anybody could
Mm.
lead a song at any time, and everybody has their gifting, highlighting the giftings in others, and that collaborative thing, right? It's like, hey, listen, you're going to do way better at this than I know my lane, right? I know what I can do. That's the benefit of a little bit of age, I think, right? When we're 20, we're like, we just want to prove, and we feel like we got to prove something or whatever. But the benefit of a little bit of age is like, okay, I know who I
Yeah.
am now, and I don't need to prove anything. And I not only can I give space for others, but I can celebrate others too. But like, I would love to just briefly talk about that. Like, if for somebody who's listening, that's a local worship leader, that's maybe trying to build a culture of worship, and maybe they're frustrated because people won't lift their hands, and maybe they're frustrated because that goodbye yesterday works everywhere else, but it doesn't work for their church. Like, can you kind of speak to that build that culture piece of it's not a million, it's not a one and done. You've got time to build. Can you kind of speak to that?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a big difference between a song
Mm.
leader and a worship leader. I think you can sing like Whitney and own a 3.5 minute moment, have your multi tracks down pat, and it's like, oh my gosh, like that was just like amazing. And I'm not saying that that's not worship. I'm not saying there isn't an element of that. But for me, when I see like a 25, 30, or 45 minute Sunday morning set, and I love what you guys do, passing the baton, you do one song, some person a song, and I love that. But I think there's also something to be said for, hey, new worship leader person, you have 30 of the
Wow.
45 minutes today. They're on your shoulders. Here's a set list. Here's a song list. But not only am I going to teach you how to listen to a multi-track to tell you where to go, verse, chorus, bridge, whatever,
Mm,
I'm going to teach you how to
mm,
steward a room. And I'm not saying it has to be like spontaneous, like going off script, because going off script does not equal success, like in my mind. Like I think some people, man, if we didn't go spontaneous, it was a failure. No, God is I believe he's a God of order. He can speak to you to craft a 4 minute song, and that song can be quote unquote prophetic in the moment, right? It doesn't have to be this like spontaneous thing. So that's not what I'm saying, but I do think there's something about I'll give an example. I was, somewhere recently listening to worship, and like the third song of the set, or maybe the fourth song, I think it was the third song of the set, was inviting God to come. And I was like, wait a minute. Like the first song of the set was the inviting God to come song. The second song was more of a Christ centric song of the cross. And the third
mm.
song, we're just inviting him to come again. Like, what are we, like, but that person wasn't the only person leading. They were just told, do this song, do this song, do this song. So I'm like, where is the, like, do you know how to actually lead worship, or whoever plopped those songs in planning centers? Like, do you know how to like have a flow in a set? And again, it's not always gonna be perfect, and I'm nitpicking there, but I do think there's something to be said for song leading versus worship leading, and I don't think they're necessarily the same thing. And so I think that an opportunity for growth would be for these young kids to realize, you know what, like I want to actually like lead a room, uh, and have leaders give them more time than just, all right, here's 5 minutes. And it's like, give 30 seconds if you want to go spontaneous, but it's 5 minutes and 30 seconds. We got to go on to the other three songs. Cause and again, I get that. I understand how it flows, but can we
Yeah,
push the
no,
needle a
I
little bit
love
more
that.
in that?
I think a set list should tell a story. I think we're taking them on a journey. And the Bible kind of gives us the blueprint, and I don't think we have to reinvent the wheel. The outer courts, inner courts, and then the holy place. And I think we can kind of follow that in our own way, like because people are showing up. I think one of the things that I learned the hard way coming off the road, where people show up for a night of worship and they want to, you could sing "Kumbaya" and they're like, "Let's go," you know. But
Mhm,
then stepping into local
mhm,
kind of ministry, local church ministry, is that I've been listening to the song all week, and I've been here since 6:30 a.m., but they just got here, and their kids were probably crazy on the way here. They probably had a whole yogurt fight in the back seat, my kids. And so maybe they're not
yep, yep,
ready to make room, or lay on their face yet. Like maybe they're not there. They just got out of the car. Like they did well to be here today. So they're still in the outer courts, but that's our opportunity as leaders. We get to take them by the hand and say, hey man, let me walk you down, let me take you on this journey, because I know it's been a hard week, I know life is crazy. Let me take you on a journey to get you to a place where now your heart is open to, so, and it's we don't
yep,
have to reinvent the wheel. I think there's a lot there. Someone way smarter than me would know when it comes to that outer courts, inner courts, holy place. But we try to think through that, and I think, again, mapping out the story of where you going here, and what, knowing what's coming up next, and all the things. And as far as spontaneous, like we're kind of just, we're leaning into that a little bit with our culture. I think we do a lot of mashups. If you follow us on social media, they're all over the place. But and the reason that we do that, and I tell our team, we want the room to be ready. Like we don't move until the
mhm,
room is ready, right? Like I'm sure you can relate as someone who
mhm,
speaks and is a speaker, like walking into a room that's been cultivated, it is, there's nothing like it.
mhm,
And so, but there's that balance too, because
yep,
like you don't want to wring it dry. Like I jokingly tell people, we're Scottie Pippen, the speaker is Michael Jordan. That's a really outdated reference at this point, but we get to set up the play, so to
mhm,
speak, and then now the word of God can come and do what
Mm,
it does and change hearts, and now we've all the things. So I
mm.
love that, man. I'm gonna ask you a random question. You're not maybe not ready for it, but I would love, this is just a selfish question. Um, right now, if you were to put together a 4-song set list right now, like what 4 songs would you pick? Give us an outer court, an inner court, like a holy place, and then maybe like a response altar call. Like what would be like if you're on the road and somebody said, "What's your go-to set?" What would it be right now?
Yeah. Yeah. The old hymn, just the chorus, of praise God from whom all blessings flow. Praise him, all creatures here below. Meddling into just the
Mm,
chorus of Martin Smith's Our God Reigns. Um, Going from there into the bridge of I Speak Jesus, shout Jesus from the mountains, Jesus from the streets, into the chorus of I Speak Jesus, your name is power, healing. From there into I think it's the pre of Holy Forever, your name is the highest, your name is the greatest. And then finishing out Holy Forever, the second bridge or second chorus, whatever they call it on the chord sheet there, and maybe some gaps in between there of just keeping it really kind of Jesus centric. And I've done that set a good fair amount on tour these past couple of weeks even, and in that, like, praise God from whom all blessings flow into our God reigns. Just again, it's so like declarative of who Jesus is. Just even it's like prepping the room of like any funk, any like weirdness that we brought in here that other people are bringing in here. Just like Jesus reigns over it all. And then going into the shout Jesus from the mountains, like we ourselves committed that part of the story. And I would a lot of times throw in one of my own songs called "We Lift You Up," in between "I Speak Jesus" and "Our God Reigns" as well.
perfect. Well, you had that set on lock. That was great. I love that. And I mean, you're absolutely right. What you did there is you took us on a journey and you prepared hearts. So that's what it's about. I think that's what sets a great worship leader apart, is that ability to do that and to lift the room and to take the room on a journey. And when all else fails, just sing "Worthy Is Your Name."
There you go.
And
There you
bring them
go.
back. Well, I don't want to keep you too much longer. I just got a couple of more things, and then we'll wrap with some fun stuff. Um, I'd love if you could just to kind of tell. I know you got a lot of things going on. You got the Worship Leader Academy, the Creative Legacy Conference that you do, and
Yeah.
then what I really want to know most about is your coffee. The coffee,
There you
your
go. Yes, Lord.
yeah. So talk to us about all you got going on real quick.
Yeah, I mean, Johnny's kidding, but he's not kidding. He knows me well. So I have a whole Instagram dedicated to my coffee, and that's what I do. I travel a lot, and when I do, I seek out legit coffee shops. I believe coffee is a fruit. It is a fruit, and I believe it should have fruit forward notes in it. So not be burnt to a crisp where it tastes like you're sucking on charcoal. It should taste like you have fruit. That's my opinion. Not everyone has that, but that's my coffee pitch. Follow me at my coffee Instagram. But yeah, so really, if you look at my wife and I in our ministry, there's three main things that we give ourselves to: worship, discipleship, and then the creative arts. And so on the worship side of things, just released a new song a couple of weeks ago called "Simple Pursuit." That is one of my favorite songs I've released. I know everyone says about every song they ever release, it seems like, but it's a really personal song that I wrote with a good friend of mine named John. He had come out of a church, and I'd come out of a church. It was very like kind of mission focused, and like one of the lines that we said in the first verse is, I was told that I'd pioneer your next move, Jesus's next move, but all I really needed was just to sit with you. Like,
Mm,
and there's like sometimes this pressure of like revival and like, and I love that stuff. Like Jesus is coming, like whatever, but it's like, no, let's just be simple and love of Jesus and let all the other stuff, maybe it'll come, maybe it won't, whatever. Just on the worship side of things, co-writing a ton, releasing music. On the discipleship side of things, so the worship side of things, and then on the discipleship side of things, we do a lot of online training, like you mentioned, the Worship Leader Academy. I have monthly co-writing groups that I lead, so I'm getting people from all over the world to co-write virtually. I have the only program that I'm aware of right now for worship leaders that offers truly unlimited one-on-one discipleship. So it's not me and like 35 or worship leaders on a Zoom call. It's like literally unlimited access to me for one-on-one coaching. inside the Worship Leader Academy. And then also under the discipleship piece, we have a conference we host every single year called the Creative Legacy Gathering. It's for entrepreneurs and creatives to find the internal strength for their external calling. And it's a 2.5 day event that we host here in Kansas City, and it's incredible. And then, yeah, on the film side of things with our production company called Firelight Creative Productions, it's a much longer story that I could share sometime, but it was never my dream to do Hollywood for Jesus, never my dream to do musicals or films. And here I find myself with a production company. We've done multiple award winning musicals and films, and we're about to press go on our next film in 2026, which we are super, super excited about. And so that's kind of what makes up Justin Rizzo.
I love it, man. That's incredible. That is awesome. Favorite coffee shop in KC?
Currently, I'd have to go with Ace. It's spelled ASE. It's in South Kansas City, but also another just staple is called Oddly Correct. Consistent coffee for decades. But Ace is a brand new one, and they do some really, really solid stuff.
I love that. Well, let me ask you this. I mean, obviously, this would probably be the last worst case scenario for you. But if you've got to go drive through coffee, where are you going? It's got to be drive
Ooh.
through. In a bind, where are you going?
On the road, I'm mostly hitting up Starbucks, and one of every like 25 cold brews I get or iced coffee. Their cold brews nasty. Sorry, Starbucks. The iced coffee I get, 1 in 25 actually is fruity. It's like the most random place on earth, like small town wherever. Like, why this like iced coffee tastes like fruit? And honestly, McDonald's iced coffee black, like no sugar and any of this stuff, is not horrible. I'm not gonna lie.
Have you ever had Dutch Bros?
I have.
Yeah, not a fan.
It's Are we talking black?
Well, I mean, I don't know. Do you do any like frou like like flavored coffees or anything like that or no?
If I'm in a really, really weak moment, I will, but it's very, very rare, like 2 or 3 times a year. Like,
If you've had like a really bad worship set, nothing goes right. He's like, I'm gonna get a vanilla latte right now. And
yeah,
put this thing
yeah.
to yeah.
Are you a Dutch Bros fan?
I love yeah, so we lived in California for a while, and just as we were the last 6 months we were there, we were getting Dutch Bros everywhere, and I just became a hooked. They have this thing called the Annihilator. I get it sugar-free, and I don't know what's in it, but dude, it takes you where you need to be. And then here
What a name.
yeah, and the Annihilator. And then here in Atlanta, or on the East Coast where we are now, they have something called 7 Brew. Have you been to one of those?
I've heard of it, never been.
Yeah, it's good. It's the same thing. It's like the breve style, so really heavy cream.
Yep.
We're basically talking caffeinated milk at this point. It's like chocolate milk for grown-ups. Um, but cool. Well, last thing, and then we'll wrap here, just because it's the holiday season, and I'm asking everybody. And here in just a few days, if you've not already gotten complete, like we've got our tree up, we're ready to go. But
Oh, yeah.
in a few days, it's going to be we'll be fully in. Can before we go, can you just give us your top 5 Christmas movies?
Yes. It's a Wonderful Life is for sure. Um, I like the classic Santa Claus. I think it's black and white. They redid it in color, and then they redid a new version, but I like the old one, that like the black and white. Sorry, that was Miracle on 34th Street is the black and white one.
Yeah,
Santa Claus is the new one with Tim Allen. I love that one. Miracle on 34th Street, the old original one. And then Home Alone is a classic, obviously. And then Christmas in Connecticut, very dysfunctional movie, but I kind of enjoy Christmas in Connecticut once a year.
I've never seen that. I'm gonna have to add that to
It's it's old, dude.
my.
It's old.
Okay, is it like black and white?
Very- Yeah. Oh yeah.
Really? Okay.
And very dysfunctional.
What have you seen the Jonas Brothers Christmas movie?
I'm not.
It just I mean I mean it just came out and
Okay.
apparently it's pretty good, for us musical lovers. So who knows? Uh
Okay.
yeah, cool. We can cut this part out if we need to, but Wicked, are you a fan? You like it?
I've not seen it on
Really?
stage
Okay.
or the movie or
Okay.
anything. I've so many people tell me I need to see it.
It's it's for Christians, it's a hot take. Wicked, it's in the name, right? But I mean,
Right.
whatever. It is what it. We all watched Wizard of Oz growing up, and we're fine. Thank you so much for being on, bro. Thank you for chatting with us for a few minutes. I know people will be so encouraged by this. Check out Justin everywhere. Follow him and be a part of what he's doing. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time on the Worship Nugs podcast.